Hey everyone, Lewis aka Spider-Man 991 here with my weekly comic book review. This is where I talk about the comic books that I read that were released this week. And this week's comics came out on August 15th, 2018. And as usual, I review them from worst to best. Let's get started. New Challengers, number 4. The Challengers failed to get another fragment, and when they return to Challengers Mountain, they discover Prof is actually a dying Bethany, who is one of the new challengers. We are about 2/3 into this series. It's a 6-issue miniseries, and we've only got 2 issues left, and nothing really interesting is happening. And most of the last 3 issues have all pretty much been weighed down by going into the backstory of each member of the new challengers. And it's just not really exciting anymore, and I'm just getting it because I'm hoping that maybe by the end something will happen that could change my opinion on this series, but so far it hasn't been that great, and I honestly just can't recommend this title. Doctor Strange, number 4. Doctor Strange and Kana attempt to rescue the dwarf Eophrin from the Magistane. They're in space, some of these names are hard to say. Unfortunately, Kana gets captured during their escape, and Ephraim then offers to train Steven in the art of weapons forging in order to so instead of relying on different magical items or sources, Steven could somehow just forge his own weapons. Which when you read that scene, the realization that's on Steven's face is just, wow, that is a very simple solution. But my favorite scene of this issue, though, has got to be the return of Doctor Strange's Cloak of Levitation, because ever since magic was gone from Earth, Doctor Strange retired using the cloak, and since then he hasn't felt the same. But now that the cloak's got its powers back and Steven's wearing it again, it feels like a return to form with him, and it feels like he's back to sort of making a slow return to being the Sorcerer Supreme. Also, the series writer Mark Waid makes excellent use of nonlinear storytelling by sort of filling us in on what exactly happened between this issue and the last one, where we see a bunch of different montages of Steven learning different spells in order to explain like how he's getting back into power, which is very fantastic. This title pretty much continues to put Doctor Strange on a new journey while also bring him back to his former glory. It's a very awesome series, and if you are a Doctor Strange fan, I highly recommend you check this out. Astonishing X-Men Annual number 1. The original X-Men, minus Cyclops, reunite for a brief dinner that's crashed by X, aka Charles Xavier. Xavier tells his former students that his old foe Lucifer is back and he needs their help. I really enjoyed how Matthew Rosenberg wrote Charles Xavier in this issue, because recent stories that have centered around Charles Xavier have often shown that his kind schoolteacher persona was really a cover for his true, darker, more manipulative chess mastery personality. And when Rosenberg writes Xavier in this issue, he just basically drops the whole teacher thing. Like, he is basically much more upfront about what his true motives could be, and he's not afraid to use whatever methods to make his goals possible. I'm not saying that it's bad. I'm not saying like Xavier's gone completely dark, but it is a bit more different from what we've seen from Charles Xavier in the past, and it's led a lot of fans to believe that maybe when he merged his consciousness into Phantom X's body, that somehow pieces of Phantom X's personality have sort of rubbed off on Charles. Also, the real reason I decided to pick this issue up was because it features the original X-Men, and it's nice to see them revisited, especially since we've got the other the Time-Displaced original X-Men in another title. And what's interesting is I like how the reason these 4 meet together is because they want to sort of like just because they reflect on their lives and like whether or not being the X-Men was something that was beneficial for them. And I would say that if you're a fan of Charles Xavier or the original 5 X-Men, then this is a story that you should definitely try reading. Otherwise, however, if you're not, then you can just skip it. Justice League number 6. Lex Luthor has reached the center of the totality event. Meanwhile, the rest of the League continues to struggle against the Still Force and the Invisible Spectrum. However, they find a solution in an unlikely source. One of the things that I love about this Justice League title is how grand, universal scale this series is. I mean, this feels like the kind of threats that the Justice League was meant to fight. and there's a really awesome fight scene between Batman and Lex Luthor, which was very enjoyable. And the way Scott Snyder writes Batman proves that he's still one of the best Batman writers. And I also loved the interaction when Luthor pretty much figures out how Batman survived Superman's white blood cells. The artwork in this issue by Jorge Jimenez is also very bright and dynamic and colorful. It's like the perfect thing that you would have for this issue. Also, the way he designs the Joker is super creepy, and I'm okay with that because it really works well since it's the Joker. You know, if you're really looking for a very epic and cinematic scale type of superhero story, then I definitely recommend picking up Justice League, because in all honesty, the way they're writing the Justice League title is probably how they should have been writing the Justice League movie. Extermination, #1. Marvel's finale for the Time-Displaced X-Men begins here. A hooded figure from the future arrives to capture the original X-Men. Also, this figure is joined by Ahab, who, if you don't know, was from Days of Futures Past, who is responsible for turning Rachel Gray into a hound. And during this issue, Ahab, spoiler alert, kills Bloodstorm, the vampire otherworld version of Storm. And also another major X-Men character dies in this issue, and when you find out who the hooded figure is, it definitely raises a lot of questions, but it's something that keeps you wanting to know more about this story. I dropped X-Men Blue months ago. It was right before they did the Poison X crossover with Venom, and I just forgot to renew my subscription after that arc. But I still felt Extermination very accessible. And if you have a vague idea about like about why the original X-Men are in the present day Marvel universe, then you'll be fine. It doesn't have much, it's really not much of an issue, so new readers should easily, as long as you know why the original X-Men came and how they came here, then you should be able to jump on board with Extermination, no problem. Also, I loved how in the first issue they pretty much revealed who the main antagonist is. I think that's very good, because usually these stories tend to keep it a mystery, drag it on to like maybe the middle or penultimate issue of the story, but they just upfront said it, and I think that was brilliant, because the other major death I mentioned, not Bloodstorm, is definitely made it much more meaningful, and definitely makes it, there's definitely more of a mystery about why this new character killed this other character. Overall, I think Extermination has a great opener, and it shows some good signs that it could be a very memorable X-Men event. So I think if you've read any of the stories featuring the Time-Displaced original team, then this is something you should definitely give a try. Tony Stark, Iron Man #3. Tony Stark's Project Escape hits beta testers, but there are some bugs to work out, mainly one called Aaron Stack, aka Machine Man. I'm really enjoying the structure behind the stories in Tony Stark Iron Man, because a lot of these issues, so far these issues have felt more like one-shot or one-and-done stories. And I think that's a good way to sort of like ease people into this new Iron Man title. And it feels very accessible for people, that you don't have to start with the first issue. You can, but you don't have to. In a way, it kind of like picks up and gives you like a brief idea about who's who and what's going on, so that you can easily enjoy it, and if you like it, you can keep reading it. Also, I think a lot of people might criticize this because of how slow we're going into this ongoing arc, which is involving Bethany Cabe being used by the supervillain Controller. But I think if you've ever read Dan Slott's previous work, who's the current writer of this title, then you know that he definitely does this sort of thing a lot. He basically leaves breadcrumbs for the bigger bad he wants to use, so that when finally comes time to reveal what the big bad is up to, and he uses that character, it makes much more of an impact. And it feels a lot like watching a TV show and getting teased the big bad until finally you get to the season finale. Also, I really liked how the idea that Tony had for the beta testers using Project Escape. Basically, Tony's idea is that the beta testers have to find the Stark employees that are also using Escape, that are hidden as and that are disguising themselves as NPCs. And when I read this idea, it kind of made me think. It kind of reminded me a little bit about the book Ready Player One, and I kind of thought, like, so this is basically what if Tony Stark controlled the Oasis. Also, when you finally get to see what NPC identity Tony picked, it is hilarious. It's really hilarious, especially if you've seen Infinity War. Okay, but yeah. Also, this issue has some very, very interesting moments with the side character Jocasta, aka the former Bride of Ultron, and I think that. And we've been seeing a lot of Jocasta over the last couple of issues, and I think that Jocasta is most likely going to be the breakout character for Dan Slott's run. So, honestly, I think if you are an Iron Man fan, or a Jocasta fan, or if you like Dan Slott's work, then you should definitely give Tony Stark Iron Man a shot. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers number 30. All of the Power Rangers across the multiverse arrive for one final assault against Lord Dracon. Plus, Zordon and Kruger from SPD get help from Rita Repulsa, who's able to use the green candle to weaken Dracon's powers. The candle works, however, in a last-ditch effort, Lord Dracon decides to absorb all the power from every single morpher he's collected, and that's where the issue ends. So right now this is the penultimate issue of Shattered Grid. This event will be concluded in a couple of weeks in the one-shot Shattered Grid finale. And this issue here is filled with so many epic moments. Starting off in the beginning, we have Jason delivering the epic speech to every single Ranger. We've also got, right before the final battle, since Jason's going to be leading the ground assault, he hands the Dragon Dagger and the Dragon Shield over to Kimberly. And during the battle, Kimberly is able to use the Dragon Dagger as an arrow with her power bow and fire it into Lord Dracon, which is basically the main thing that allows Rita's green candle to mainly affect Dracon. Also, during the fight, it's not just Rangers, they've got Megazords, but we find out that Lord Dracon is also controlling Serpentera. I mean, just when I saw Serpentera basically destroy 4 Megazords, it was huge. Like, definitely it was a really cool shot. And at this point, I would say that if you're a Power Rangers fan and you're not reading Shattered Grid, what is wrong with you? This is awesome. And Shattered Grid is also proof that an ongoing Power Rangers comic book can work. Because there are things you can do in a comic book you can't do in a TV show. And this arc proves that the Power Rangers can have a sustaining franchise outside of television. I think if you had told me years ago that there's going to be a Mighty Morphin Power Rangers comic book line, I would not think that it would last beyond 30 issues. But Shattered Grid is the main thing that I think is what is keeping fans reading this book. So if you're a Power Rangers fan and you're not reading Shattered Grid, what is wrong with you? This arc is awesome. We've only got one issue left. So I don't know how, but if you can, try to catch up on every single issue if it haven't sold out at your local comic shop. Alright, my last comic, my pick of the week is Batman number 53. Bruce Wayne finally convinced the jury to reverse their original verdicts by proving that Batman is fallible. Tom King's dialogue is really what makes this issue work. The entire issue is just basically Bruce laying his argument down to the jury about why a lot of the people in Gotham see Batman as God, and also why they shouldn't treat him as such because Batman is still a man. And there's so many good examples of this. From the line where Bruce says, "God blesses your soul with grace," Batman punches people in the face. I seriously think that's going to be like the cornerstone quote of Tom King's run on Batman. To the comparison Bruce makes about his recent misfortunes to the Book of Job in the Bible. And, Tom King does a good job with using this story to show us where Bruce is in his life right now after he lost his pretty much big chance at happiness by marrying Selena, and what is he gonna do moving forward. Because by the time the issue closes, we hear Bruce having a conversation with Alfred, and when he gets ready for patrol, he asks Alfred to prepare his original suit. And when you hear the original suit, and when you get to the final shot of Batman wearing his year one suit, you kind of realize that he's taking it back to basics approach, because Bruce has lost his identity as Batman, and now he needs to find it again in order to move forward with his life. Also, I want to point out the art team on this issue, Lee Weeks and Elizabeth Breitweiser. They did an awesome job with this issue. The artwork is stunning. They did a couple of year one homages. There was one panel where we see Bruce Wayne getting off a plane, returning to Gotham after his journey, which feels like a direct lift from year one. And also, the final shot I mentioned of Bruce in his original suit, it feels straight out the year one comic that I swear it's so much like David Mazzucchelli's design from the character from that arc. Honestly, Batman is probably the best comic being published by DC right now. And if you're not reading it, start reading it, because it is awesome. And I know at the beginning of Rebirth, I thought Batman was good, but I didn't really start to love it until we got closer to the Batman-Catwoman wedding. So I've obviously changed my tune. I think Batman is probably, like I said, the best title that DC is publishing. So if you haven't been reading it, I say start doing it now. Alright, that's it for my comic book review. Thank you again for watching. Just want to remind everyone that I'm uploading these videos on Saturdays now. Thank you again. Thanks you. Remember, if you want to know when I upload a new video, just hit that bell icon. You'll get notified. Or you can follow me on my Twitter, because I always post new video links to my Twitter feed. Link is in the description below. My account is Spiderman991, same as my username. Thank you again for watching. Later days.